How does a primordial song start, and who does it usually start with?
Well, we have a kind of a rule, which is we don't trade files. We have to be in the room together. We don't write remotely. We don't write to drum machines. So we still meet exactly like we did in 91. Four of us in a room, or five of us, as the case may have been. I have a riff. It goes like this. Check it out. Play along. We all listen. Maybe we go, hey, you remember that riff from this other song from 3 months ago? What about, will that go after that? What if we change the key? Oh, maybe do it 6 times. And then, I'll look through my books and my pieces of paper and I'll go, you know what, this lyrics feels like this to me. And Simon, the drummer, might go, well, what about if we change the beat from this to this? And, it's really old school, very traditional way of songwriting. And then the chemistry sort of takes over and things become by percentages become more and more primordial, 40, 50, 60, 70%, until you have this primordial song. There's no like magic formula to it, but certainly we do things in a really, really traditional way. And if we were to, if the band will never be that band that trades MP3s and files and writes remotely, because that's just for me kind of like giving in a bit. It's like removing the sort of beautiful element of humanity that goes into creating with other people,
Do you feel like there's a, I don't want to use the word magic because I speak to bands who believe in the occult quite literally.
Yeah, sure.
But do you feel like there's a chemistry that happens when all you guys are in the room together, and that's what makes the song special?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you can use the word magic without implying, as you say, a sort of spiritually magic or occult way to it. But there's definitely, we all bring different things to the table. There's a chemistry there, which is five very different people with different influences, different, views on the construction of music, but also the things they bring to the table from their backgrounds and their moods and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, there's chemistry there. And sometimes to unlock the door to a really great song, you need that other person who's almost diametrically opposed to some of the things that you stand for to go, look, you fucking idiot. Take this and do this. And what the fuck are you singing? Or really, you're going to sing that? Or I would lose those last two lines. They don't fit into the, what do you call it, the onomatopoeia or the rhythm structure or whatever. And you go, fuck you. And then 2 minutes later, you go, yeah, you have a point. And the thing about Primordial is nothing is precious. No one's precious. So Kieran can write. We have, when we go to the studio to record, we have a big whiteboard and we write on these big, pieces of paper and we put them up and we're all looking at them in the room. There's no problem for me to go over and cross out something and go, instead of 4, can we make it 6? Because I have more singing. And how about we go from C to C sharp or something? Or how about you take this bit? Like nobody will go, oh, fuck off. I mean, of course, we all go fuck off to each other. We're Irish. Obviously, we have big shouting matches and, we fucking fuck you and whatever. But no one's precious. Like if Kieran says to me, like, man, I'm really, that bit of singing just does my fucking head in. I might stand my ground and then we'll see tomorrow. And in the morning, you might listen to it and go, yeah, you know what, you're right. So it's a combination of knowing when to try and take control of a situation. That's a difficult thing with songwriting, and knowing when to sit back and let somebody else take over. Knowing when it's your turn to take the reins and drive it forward and go, you know what, maybe I have an idea. And I'll pick up the bass and go, well, what about this bit from here? Or, or Paul will pull out a bass riff and go, remember that thing from 10 years ago? So it's a chemistry, and it's a joy also. Being creative, the ability to be creative and not see it as a labor, I think is very important. And that's why I think after 10 albums, Primordial still sounds like it has energy and vitality and life within the songs. You can disagree if you want, but it's a very important thing to step outside of the parameters that exist within a band and be able to step outside and go, do we still sound like we fucking mean it? And if you still got that skill, it's a very important skill, So it's a combination of lots of different things.
So at the end of September, Primordial released their 10th album, How It Ends, through Metal Blade Records.
Yeah.
I'd like to start with the title, the album title, because it's quite ominous.
Yeah.
What does it refer to, How It Ends?
Well, look around the world. Some people think it's about the band. It's not meant to be, although I deliberately did that for it to be kind of cryptic and have people ask and wonder, is that the end of the band? I suppose realistically the album doesn't really have a theme, but it's kind of moving around a couple of different subjects. And one is that liberty is the most important word in any language, and the pursuit of liberty and our relationship to liberty and a fight for liberty, whether it's, intellectual, bodily autonomy, whatever you want to call it, political, spiritual, and the idea that we resist authoritarianism. So the principle, I suppose, of the title and the cover is this: how it ends, always at the end of a barrel of a gun. Is this how we define the civilization, or how one piece of dirt belongs from one tribe to another, or whatever you want to say? But the album is kind of about. The album has kind of an infatuation with the doomed romance of the revolutionary fighter or the rebel or the people on the outside of authoritarian states resisting empire or colony or from either side of the political spectrum. Sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly, I suppose. Who am I to judge? That's not really about what the album isn't really judging. It's more reflecting on the dark impulses of human nature, I suppose. So it's asking the question, like, and some of the lyrics, how did it feel when you stood in line for the last time? That kind of ominous end to the illusion of democracy that sometimes we believe doesn't need to be tended to, or, that kind of thing.
How would you describe the evolution of Primordial's music over the years leading to this latest album?
Sometimes barely at all. Sometimes quite significant. I don't really think about it too much. I mean, there's a song in it called All Against All. And this is a song we could have written in 93 or 94. And that makes me happy that it still has a sort of primitivism to it. We're not really concerned about those things. We're all good musicians, but we never cared about being the tightest or the best or showing off or something simplistic and sounds great. So I don't know. I mean, I think Primordial doesn't really sound like anybody. And I think we've carved our own niche, our own furrow. And we that's the path that we walk. We're not interested in we don't have a difficult electronic period or an awkward acoustic album that everybody has to pretend to like.
You never released a remix album?
No, we have our style, and it's drums, bass, guitar, and singing. Every now and again there's something acoustic guitar, a little bit of something else. But we're very traditional in a sense. It's very like Sabbath or something, and it's about the songwriting and the riffs and the singing and all those kind of things. We didn't rely on keyboards or Irish trad instruments to make the atmosphere. So Primordial is still very traditional metal band. And so I don't know. If a song sounds to me like, it sounds like our demo, well, I don't care. I mean, it doesn't bother me. We made our demo, so it's fine for me if a song echoes the demo, and some of them do. So the answer is not much and a lot. I don't know.
Do you go into albums wanting to try anything new? Or is it just however it comes out is...
I don't really think about it. I mean, there's new elements in this new album. There's some ways I haven't sung quite the same way before. But I just try and do what fits the song. If what fits the song is primitive black metal vocals, then that's what fits the song. I'm not really interested in something being progressive. Or if it is, it is. If somebody comes up to me and goes, wow, like there's a song on the previous album called Sunken Lungs, which is quite a complicated drum beat and is quite a difficult time signature. And it's a difficult song to play. I think it's a brilliant song, actually. I think it's one of the most underrated Primordial songs. And other musicians or people who are interested in trad music have been like, fucking hell, this is complicated. But at the same time, as I said, also there's All Against All from the new album, which is just has a riff that could be from a Beharit demo. It's just whatever, whatever works for me is that's the most important thing.
Has your approach to the vocals changed at all?
Yeah, it has. Again, yes and no. The most important thing is that you sound like you mean it, and that people should be able to me at least, people should be able to understand what the fuck I'm saying without a lyric sheet. It's very important to be part hooligan, part poet, part writer, but also part heavy metal singer, but part rabble rouser. And like the ability to write a big chorus isn't lost on me the way the maidens and the priests do. Like if you listen to Empire Falls, here comes the big hook in the chorus. That's important to me. And if you don't speak English, you can get it. And if you hear the Coffin Ships and you don't speak English, you get it. This is a fucking sad song. this is about something tragic and serious and real. And you get it. But if you do want the lyrics, they're there for you also. So I've added some strings to my bow at the singing, but at the same time, I'm not somebody who listens to the singing and goes, that bit's out of tune, I need to do it again. Sometimes, but sometimes there's lots of out of tune bits, and there's out of time bits, and there's bits that are ad hoc and just off the cuff, and I've just gone, made words up, and I go, that's pretty cool, leave it in. So lots of the songs are one take, very little messing with, you know.
I mean, out of curiosity, you mentioned the importance of hooks and choruses, which I think is something that I've been trying to get people to say for about 300 episodes now. No one quite seems to know what I'm getting at, though. But when you play live, and especially when you play to audiences where English is not their native language,
yeah,
do you see that reaction when they recognize the chorus or they know the words, even though they're not native English speakers?
Oh, absolutely. And of course, don't forget an awful lot of heavy metal, modern heavy metal, and all the different sub-genres of heavy metal. Being a singer, which I am, it's not like the done thing anymore. It's not. Back in the 60s and the 70s, you looked at all the great rock bands and they had fucking singers. Now, I'm not putting myself in the same category, but the ability to writing a chorus is more difficult to me than writing a song of endless dissonant dirges, which are somewhere between incantation and portal. And yeah, I mean, okay, cool, but try and write 30 choruses like the Misfits, then come back to me. That's fucking hard. Writing memorable songs with hooks it's fucking difficult. And it's a skill, and you learn it over the years. And Primordial, okay, Journey's End doesn't have any choruses on it, but then we started to have a few by the third album. And yeah, I mean, writing a big chorus is quite a difficult thing. And sometimes it's important to me. And then other songs, it's not at all. Like I said, All Against All, I don't think there's a chorus in that one. But then again, Victory is a Thousand Fathers has a big fucking chorus. And of course, yeah, you go to Brazil or Chile or Argentina or Russia or Mexico or something and wheel out a big fucking, everybody can get, where's the fighting man? Am I he? I am he. I mean, you don't need, to be well-versed in English to understand that. So for me, sometimes you have to, how can we say, you have to sheath your iron fist in a velvet glove sometimes. You have to be you can be part poet, but also be part hooligan, part rabble-rouser. And sometimes a big, huge fucking fuck you of a chorus just lands in the middle of it, And that's also the thing you learned from, well, not that those bands were like that, but that's all the things you learned from, Priest and Manowar and Maiden and Dio and stuff, So kind of a mixture of all things,